I'm Samantha Mitchell, 4 years old, and I've always been the invisible sister, standing in the shadow of my spotlight, stealing younger sister Celia for years. I silently endured her mockery and judgment about my career choices while she paraded her achievements at every family gathering. What Celia never understood was that true success doesn't always come with fanfare and Instagram post at our recent family dinner. Everything changed in an instant when she learned the truth I'd been keeping, quiet sometimes. The best revenge isn't planned at all. It's simply the moment. When reality catches up, before I dive into what happened that night, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. If you've ever been underestimated by someone who should have been your biggest supporter growing up in suburban Boston, Celia, and I couldn't have been more different while I was the quiet, thoughtful child who preferred reading business magazines and planning imaginary companies in my notebook. Celia was the social butterfly who commanded attention the moment she entered a room 3 years younger than me. She somehow always seemed to take up more space in our family dynamics. "Samantha, why can't you be more outgoing?" like your sister Mom would ask when I declined. Joining the school dance team, college admissions officers look for well-rounded students. What my parents didn't understand was that I was developing different strengths, while Celia collected trophies for dance competitions and cheerleading. I was building a small business reselling collectible items, online learning about profit margins, and customer service before I could drive our childhood. Bedroom told the story of our differences perfectly, her side plastered, with ribbons, team photos, and certificates of achievement my side. Organized bookshelves, a meticulously kept budget notebook, and a small corkboard with my 5-year goals neatly typed and pinned. "What's the point of doing something if nobody knows about it?" Celia would ask when I declined to share my business ventures with the extended family at holiday gatherings. She simply couldn't comprehend my preference for private achievement over public accolades. High school amplified our differences. Celia became student body president, prom queen, and captain of the debate team, positions that came with recognition and applause. I worked after school at a local accounting firm, building skills and connections that wouldn't show up in a yearbook, but would serve me well later when college applications rolled around. Our parents emptied their savings account and took out a second mortgage to send Celia to Cornell University. Her acceptance letter was framed and hung in the living room next to her graduation photo and debate team trophies. "We'll figure something out for your education too." "Honey," Dad told me apologetically, "maybe community college for 2 years, then transfer." I didn't resent their decision. I understood the limited resources and made my own plan. I attended the state university on a partial scholarship, working 20 hours weekly at the campus business office to cover the rest, while Celia posted photos of sorority formals and spring break trips to Cancun. I was building my resume with internships and networking with professors who had industry connections. Mom created a Facebook album titled Celia's College Adventure with hundreds of photos. My graduation received a hearsay single post, so proud of both our girls, with a blurry photo where half my face was cut off. The pattern continued after college. Celia landed a job at a unique, prestigious marketing firm in New York City, a position that I later learned came through our father's golf buddies connection. She moved into a sleek apartment in Manhattan, subsidized by our parents, and cultivated an Instagram presence that showcased a life of cocktail parties, designer clothes, and business trips that looked suspiciously like vacations. Closed another major account today. She would post with a photo of herself clinking champagne glasses at a rooftop bar, never mentioning any details about the actual work. Meanwhile, I rented a modest apartment with a roommate in Boston, took an entry-level position at a small financial services firm, and began the unglamorous work of building a career from the ground up. Holiday gatherings became predictable performances. Celia would arrive with expensive gifts, wearing designer clothes, ready to hold court with stories of her fabulous life. In New York, the CEO personally thanked me for my presentation, she announced. During one Thanksgiving dinner, he said it was the best he'd seen in years. When my turn came to share updates, my mentions of a recent promotion or new responsibility were quickly overshadowed. "That's nice," dear Mom would say, before turning back to Celia. "Now, Tell us more about that celebrity client you mentioned during Christmas of our late 20s. Celia announced her engagement to Bradley, an investment banker she'd been dating for 6 months. The family erupted. In celebration, my parents immediately transferred $5,000 into her account for the engagement party. And what about you, Samantha? Aunt Linda asked during the celebration. Any special someone in your life? Before I could answer that, I was focusing on my career goals. Celia jumped. In Sam's married to her job, she laughed. Some people just aren't built for balance. It's all spreadsheets and no romance for my big sister. The family chuckled uncomfortably while I forced a smile. What none of them knew was that I had just been promoted to department manager overseeing a team of 12 people, a significant achievement that I chose not to share after Celia's dismissive comment as our 20s gave way to our 30s. The dynamic remained firmly established. Celia, the successful, vibrant daughter, living a glamorous life worth talking about me. The steady, unremarkable daughter, whose achievements didn't make for exciting dinner conversation. What no one in my family realized was that I had stopped sharing my professional journey with them years ago, not because there was nothing to share, but because I had grown tired of having my achievements diminished or overlooked in favor of Celia's more photogenic life. After graduating from college with a degree in business administration and a minor in information systems, I made a deliberate choice. I would build my career completely independent of family connections or interference. The constant comparisons to Celia had created a determination in me to succeed on my own terms, measured by my own metrics rather than anyone else's expectations. I accepted a position as a financial analyst at Thornton Solutions, a small but innovative financial technology company in Boston. The starting salary was modest, and the office was a converted warehouse space with inconsistent heating and cooling. But what it lacked in glamour, it made up for. An opportunity. We don't have the resources of the big firms. My first boss, Richard, told me during my interview, but you'll get experience across multiple areas, rather than being siloed into one narrow function. He was right. Within my first year, I had gained hands-on experience in financial forecasting, client relationship, management, product development, and strategic planning experience that would have taken years to accumulate at a larger, more structured corporation. While Celia posted photos of herself at celebrity, attended charity galas, and on business trips to Paris, I was often still at the office at 900 p.m. learning the business from the ground up. Weekends frequently found me volunteering for special projects, not because I was asked to, but because I recognized each one as an opportunity to develop new skills. During my second year at Thornton, the company was acquired by Lincoln Financial, a mid-size regional player looking to expand its technology offerings. The acquisition brought new resources, new challenges, and new visibility for those of us willing to step up. During the transition, you have a unique ability to see both the forest and the trees, my new supervisor commented during my performance review. That's rare in someone at your level. The acquisition also brought Eleanor Jenkins into my professional life as Lincoln's integration director. Eleanor was responsible for merging the two companies' operations, and she quickly identified me as someone who could help navigate the complex process. Eleanor became more than a boss. She became a mentor in her mid-50s with silver-streaked black hair and a no-nonsense management style. She had broken through several glass ceilings in her career and wasn't afraid to tell the uncensored truth about what it took. Being good isn't enough, she told me over coffee one morning. Being good just gets you a seat at the table. Once you're there, you have to be strategic about which battles to fight and which cards to play. When under Eleanor's guidance, I took on increasingly complex responsibilities. When Lincoln was itself acquired by MA Corporation, a major national financial services firm, Eleanor recommended me for a position on the transition team. They need someone who understands how the Thornton technology integrates with Lincoln systems. She explained, that's you. The MA acquisition accelerated my career trajectory. Working directly with C-suite executives on the integration gave me visibility couldn't have gained otherwise. When the dust settled, I was offered a director position overseeing product strategy, a significant jump that came with a substantial salary increase. and my first experience managing a sizable team throughout this period of professional growth. My family remained largely unaware of my progress the last time I had shared career news at a family gathering. Celia had immediately redirected the conversation. "That's cute. That you got a little promotion, Sam," she had said during our cousin's wedding. "I just closed $1 million account with a major fashion brand. The creative director and I have become personal. Friends were having dinner next week at his penthouse. After that, I made a conscious decision to keep my professional life private. It wasn't spite exactly, more self-preservation. Why share achievements that would only be diminished by my 32nd birthday? I had been promoted to Vice President of Strategy and Innovation at McCorp, overseeing a budget of $90 million and a team of 65 professionals across 3 states. I had relocated to Chicago for the position, buying a comfortable condo overlooking Lake Michigan. My investment portfolio was healthy. I had found fulfillment in mentoring younger women in finance, and I had developed a reputation in the industry as someone who could solve complex problems with creative, effective solution. None of which my family knew about. The headhunter calls started coming with increasing frequency. At first, I politely declined, satisfied with my trajectory at MA. But when Eleanor announced her retirement as Chief Operations Officer, the CEO asked me to consider throwing my hat in the ring for the position. "You're younger than the typical candidate," he acknowledged, "but your understanding of our business from the ground up is unmatched. You've touched every aspect of our operations through the acquisitions and integrations. The board is impressed with your vision after a rigorous interview process against external candidates with decades more experience." I was offered the COO position. 2 years of 16-hour days, constant travel, and immersing myself in every aspect of modest business followed. The work was challenging and sometimes exhausting, but deeply satisfying. I developed a reputation for fair but demanding leadership, innovative problem solving, and an uncanny ability to see around corners, to identify both risks and opportunities before they fully materialized. When Harold Matthews, MA's CEO of 15 years, announced his intention to retire, I was shocked to find myself on the short list of potential successors at 34. I would be unusually young for the position, but my track record of results spoke for itself. "The board values your unique perspective. Harold told me you understand our legacy business, but you're not bound by how we've always done things. That's exactly what MA needs in this rapidly changing environment." The selection process was grueling. Countless interviews with board members, executive assessments, background checks, personality profiles, and presentations about my vision for MA's future. Throughout it all, I maintained complete secrecy, not sharing the possibility with anyone in my personal life. When the board chairman called to offer me the position, I was sitting alone in my condo watching the sunset over Lake Michigan. "We're unanimous. Our decision," he said. "We want you to lead Ma into its next chapter." I accepted. On the spot, a surreal feeling washing over me as I realized the magnitude of what had just happened. We agreed to a public announcement in 4 weeks after. Contracts were finalized and a transition plan established with Harold. That evening, as I sipped champagne alone on my balcony, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Don't forget, there's the family dinner next weekend for your father's birthday. Celia says she has big news to share." I smiled at the irony. For once I also had news that would qualify as big by my family's standards, but something held me back from sharing it immediately. Years of having my achievements overshadowed by Celia had taught me to protect the things that mattered to me. I decided to attend the dinner without revealing my news, maintaining the agreement with the board about the public announcement timeline. What I didn't know then was that the dinner would unfold in a way none of us could have anticipated. While I was quietly building my career, step by methodical step, Celia's professional journey followed a dramatically different trajectory. Despite her prestigious Cornell degree in marketing, her post-call years were marked by frequent job changes and growing frustration that the real world didn't offer the immediate recognition and advancement she expected. Her first position at Blake and Associates, our boutique marketing firm in Manhattan, lasted just 8 months. "The creative director is completely threatened by me," she complained during a phone call with our mother. He keeps taking credit for my ideas and giving me administrative tasks beneath my abilities, what Celia didn't mention was that she had repeatedly missed deadlines and had developed a reputation for being difficult to collaborate with. I learned this later from a mutual college acquaintance who worked at a partner agency. Celia's second job at a larger agency ended after 11 months when she was passed over for a promotion. They have a political culture that rewards tenure over talent, she explained to the family. During Thanksgiving dinner, I need to find a company that values innovation. By her third job, a pattern had emerged. Celia would start with enthusiasm, charm her way through the interview process, and make grand promises about her capabilities. Once hired, she would quickly grow frustrated with the mundane aspects of the work, the need to prove herself, and the realization that her degree alone wasn't enough to fast-track her to leadership positions. Rather than developing depth of experience, she developed a skill for lateral moves that offered title bumps without increasing responsibilities. Her resume grew longer, but not deeper. Assistant marketing coordinator became marketing coordinator, became marketing specialist, became associate marketing manager, each move accompanied by minimal salary increases but impressive-sounding title changes that she could announce at family gatherings. "I've been headhunted again," became her regular refrain. Though in reality she was constantly applying to jobs and leveraging offers against each other for marginal gains. Her personal brand on social media, however, told a different story. Her Instagram feed featured carefully curated images of her exciting professional life, post photos at industry events where she was merely an attendee, but implied leadership involvement, pictures of her laptop at upscale coffee shops with captions about closing major deals and frequent updates about business trips that were primarily personal vacations with a single client, meetings scheduled to justify the expense report. After 6 years of job hopping through New York agencies, Celia faced a reality she wasn't prepared for. She had developed a reputation in the tight-knit New York marketing community as someone who talked a bigger game than she delivered. Recruiters, who had once eagerly placed her, began returning her calls less promptly. It was during this challenging period that she met Bradley Thompson at a networking event. Bradley, a mid-level investment banker with family, money, and connections, was impressed by Celia's carefully constructed persona. Their whirlwind romance led to an engagement after 6 months, providing Celia with both emotional validations and access to a new network of professional connections. Through Bradley's former college roommate's father, Celia secured an interview at the New York satellite office of MA Corporation, though I was already working at MA's Chicago headquarters by this time. Our paths never crossed professionally. The New York office was a small regional marketing division that operated with significant autonomy from headquarters, and I had no involvement in their hiring processes. Celia landed a position as marketing coordinator at MA New York, a role that was actually a step back from her previous titles, but offered the stability and corporate prestige she craved to the family. However, she positioned it as a strategic career move. "I've decided to bring my expertise to the financial sector," she announced during a family video call. MA is one of the largest financial services firms in the country, and they were very persistent in recruiting me for once. Celia found herself in a corporate environment where her particular skills could shine. The regional marketing office needed someone who could plan events and maintain relationships with local clients, areas where Celia's charisma and social abilities served her well. For the first time in her career, she stayed at one company for more than 18 months. What she lacked in strategic thinking and analytical skills, she made up for in networking ability. She cultivated relationships with anyone who might advance her position, from administrative assistants who could get her on executives' calendars to IT support staff who would prioritize her technical issues. Her performance reviews were consistently average, but her visibility within the office was high. After 3 years at MA New York, Celia received her first legitimate promotion to senior marketing coordinator. Though the advancement was modest, it represented her first promotion earned through tenure rather than changing companies. Months later, when the regional marketing manager announced her maternity leave, Celia campaigned aggressively for the interim role. It just makes sense for me to step in temporarily. She told her supervisor, I've been building relationships with all our key accounts and continuity is important. To her credit, Celia worked harder during the 6-month interim period than she had at any previous point in her career. She was determined to prove herself indispensable, hoping to make the temporary promotion permanent. She arrived early, stayed late, and for once focused more on results than appearance. When the marketing manager decided not to return after her maternity leave, Celia's temporary position was converted to permanent, the most significant professional achievement of her career to date. The regional office announced her promotion with a small ceremony and an article in the company newsletter for Celia. This validation was intoxicating after years of job hopping and exaggerating her importance. She had finally earned a legitimate management position at a respected company. The timing coincided perfectly with our father's upcoming birthday celebration in Boston, giving her the perfect stage to announce her achievement to the family in the week leading up to the family dinner. Celia spared no expense preparing to maximize the impact of her announcement. She purchased a new designer dress for the occasion, had her hair and makeup professionally done, and bought our father an extravagant watch that cost 2 months of her new salary, all to create the perfect backdrop for her moment in the spotlight. She rehearsed casual ways to mention her promotion in conversation. Oh, by the way, I have some news from Ma, and managing the team has been challenging but rewarding. She practiced humble expressions in the mirror while reciting lines about not wanting to make a big deal about the promotion, while ensuring everyone knew exactly what a big deal it was. What Celia couldn't have known as she boarded her flight from New York to Boston was that her moment of triumph was about to be completely overshadowed in a way she never could have anticipated, and by the very sister she had spent years dismissing as a career underachiever. The week before my father's birthday dinner coincided with the most significant professional milestone of my life in a wood-paneled boardroom on the 42nd floor of Ma's Chicago headquarters. I signed the contract, making me the youngest chief executive officer in the company's 80-year history. Congratulations. Samantha Harold Matthews said, standing to shake my hand as the board members applauded. I couldn't be leaving the company in more capable hands. The chairman handed me a press release draft, announcing my appointment scheduled for release in 3 weeks after Harold's retirement party. Until then, we're keeping this within the executive team. He reminded me, we want to manage the announcement properly for our shareholders and employees. I agreed, though privately I wondered if I should make an exception for my family. The timing was complicated. My father's birthday dinner was this weekend, but the public announcement was still weeks away, breaking the board's confidentiality. Directive didn't seem worth the risk, especially when I considered how these family gatherings typically played out. My assistant had already arranged my flight from Chicago to Boston for Friday evening. I would stay at a hotel rather than my parents' house, a practice I'd established years ago to maintain my sanity during family visits. This gave me personal space and allowed me to handle any work emergencies that might arise without explanation or interruption. My car service pulled up to my parents' suburban home on Saturday evening. I felt the familiar mixture of love and anxiety that these gatherings always provoked. Through the front window, I could see that several family members had already arrived. My mother's sister, Aunt Linda, and her husband were chatting with my father in the living room. My younger cousin Melissa and her new husband were helping my mother in the kitchen. I smoothed my simple black dress, took a deep breath, and knocked on the door of my childhood home. Samantha, my father, opened the door with a broad smile, pulling me into a hug. There's my girl. How was your flight? Smooth and on time, I replied, returning his embrace. Happy birthday, Dad. The initial greetings followed their usual pattern. Everyone was polite, asking general questions about my life in Chicago without expecting substantial answers. Still, keeping busy with work, Aunt Linda asked vaguely, clearly unable to remember exactly what I did. Yes, things are good, I replied with equal vagueness, years of experience having taught me that specific details about financial product strategy or corporate governance would quickly glaze over their eyes. And how's your apartment? Still in the same place? My mother asked as she handed me a glass of wine. Yes, still the same. Condo, I said, not mentioning that I had actually purchased the adjacent unit and combined them into a spacious lakefront property worth 7 figures. My cousin Melissa, always kind but perpetually confused about my career, tried to show interest. Are you still doing something with computers? At that bank, I smiled. Something like that in reality. I was 48 hours removed from signing a contract, making me responsible for over 11,000 employees and $20 billion in annual revenue, but explaining the truth seemed both impossible and inappropriate given the board's confidentiality requirements. The doorbell rang at precisely 6:30, announcing Celia's carefully timed arrival. My mother rushed to answer it, her face lighting up in a way it hadn't when I'd arrived. Celia's here, she announced unnecessarily as she swung the door open. My sister made her entrance, like an actress taking the stage. She wore a striking red dress that probably cost more than the average American's monthly salary, her hair and makeup. Flawlessly professional, she carried multiple shopping bags from luxury retailers and was followed by Bradley, carrying what appeared to be an expensively wrapped, large gift box. "Happy birthday, Daddy," she exclaimed, embracing our father with dramatic affection. "I found your gift in Milan last month during my business trip. It's from that designer you admired in the magazine." Our father, somewhat overwhelmed, accepted her enthusiastic greeting while our mother beamed beside them. The entire family gravitated towards Celia like moths to a flame, drawn in by her carefully orchestrated arrival. "Sam, you're here too," Celia said when she finally noticed me, as if my presence at our father's birthday was somehow surprising. She air-kissed near my cheeks. "That dress is so practical. You always know how to make basics work." For you, before I could respond, she had already turned back to the others, distributing smaller gifts to various family members. Just little things I picked up during my travels, and dominating the conversation with tales of her glamorous life in New York. "Bradley and I are looking at apartments in Tebeka," she announced. "Now that my career is really taking off, we need a place that reflects our success." As we moved to the dining room for dinner, the family naturally arranged themselves around Celia, eager to hear more about her exciting life. I took my usual place, at the far end of the table beside Uncle Robert, who was hard of hearing and generally missed most of the conversation my mother had prepared. My father's favorite meal, roast beef with Yorkshire pudding, roasted potatoes, and asparagus. As we began to eat, I noticed Celia regularly checking her watch and typing occasional messages on her phone, clearly building anticipation for whatever announcement she was planning. "Is everything okay, Celia?" my mother asked. Noticing her distraction, Celia smiled mysteriously. "Everything is perfect, actually. I have been waiting for the right moment to share some news." The table fell silent. All attention focused on my sister. She placed her fork down, carefully dabbed her lips with her napkin, and took a deliberate sip of water, all choreographed for maximum effect. "I wanted Dad's birthday to be the first place I shared this," she said, reaching for Bradley's hand for support. "Because family is what grounds us during life's biggest moments." I suppressed a smile at the rehearsed quality of her speech, wondering what exactly this news would be. A pregnancy announcement, a house purchase, whatever it was. Celia had clearly been planning this moment for maximum impact. "I've been promoted at MA Corporation," she finally revealed, pausing for the anticipated reaction. "I'm now the regional marketing manager for the entire Northeast Territory." The table erupted in exclamations and congratulations. My mother actually clapped her hands together in delight. "That's wonderful, honey," my father said proudly. "Tell us more about what that means." Celia was only too happy to oblige, launching into a detailed explanation that significantly exaggerated both the scope and importance of her new position. "I'll be overseeing all marketing operations from Maine to Pennsylvania," she explained. Though I knew the Northeast Territory was actually just the New York and Boston offices, my team will grow from 3 to 7 people, and my budget authority is increasing substantially. As Celia continued elaborating on her new role, I found myself at a crossroads. In just 3 weeks, I would be announced as MA's new CEO, making me not just Celia's boss, but her boss's 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 boss. The irony was almost too perfect. Should I share my news now, potentially overshadowing both Celia's moment and our father's birthday, or should I maintain the confidentiality agreement and let Celia enjoy her moment of family adoration? As I debated internally, I had no idea that Celia was about to force my hand in a way I couldn't have anticipated. The promotion comes with a substantial salary increase, Celia continued swirling her wine glass dramatically. They clearly recognize the value I bring to the company. Will you be managing more people now? Aunt Linda asked. Yes, I'll be leading a team of marketing professionals across multiple offices. Celia confirmed, though. I knew her team consisted of 2 junior coordinators and a part-time graphic designer. It's a lot of responsibility, but leadership has always come naturally to me. My father beamed with pride. That's wonderful, sweetheart. How did they tell you about the promotion? Celia launched into an elaborate story about being called into a special meeting with executives who had been monitoring her performance. They said they'd been watching my work for months and were extremely impressed with my innovative approach. As the story continued to grow with each detail, she added executive meetings that I was certain never happened, accolades from directors who probably didn't know her name, and strategic initiatives that sounded suspiciously like standard marketing campaigns. I've been really revolutionizing how MA approaches its regional marketing. She explained to our captivated family. The senior leadership has taken notice as SEO designate. I could have corrected these exaggerations, but I chose to sip my wine and listen. This was, after all, my father's birthday dinner, not the place for corporate reality checks. Then Celia turned her attention to me, perhaps noticing my silence amid the family's enthusiastic response. What about you, Sam? Still at the same company in Chicago? What are you doing these days? Accounts receivable or something? The table fell awkwardly. Silent, everyone knew this was Celia's standard approach. Highlight her own achievements by diminishing mine. I'm still with Ma. Yes, I replied neutrally. Oh, that's right, Celia said with affected surprise. I forgot we work for the same company, though I'm at headquarters in New York. Of course, I didn't correct her misunderstanding that New York was headquarters. Chicago was actually Ma's global headquarters, with New York being our regional office. Isn't that a funny coincidence? Everyone, Celia continued, both Mitchell sisters at the same company, taking such different paths. She smiled at me with false sympathy. Not everyone is cut out for the fast track. Sam's always preferred to keep a low profile. Haven't you, says our mother, sensing dangerous territory, tried to change the subject. The roast turned out well this year, don't you think? But Celia was on a roll now, energized by years of perceived competition and the validation of her recent promotion. You know, I might actually be able to help you out now, Sam, she offered with generous condescension. With my new position, I'll have connections throughout the company if you're interested in transferring to the marketing department. Even in an entry-level position, I could put in a good word. My father shifted uncomfortably. Celia, I'm sure Samantha is doing fine in her current role, but Dad, don't you want both your daughters to be successful? Celia pressed. Sam's been stuck in the same position for years while I've been climbing the corporate ladder. She turned back to me. When was your last promotion, Sam? 3-4 years ago. I took a sip of wine before answering. It's been a while. This vague answer seemed to confirm Celia's narrative. She nodded knowingly to the family. That's what happens when you don't put yourself out there and take risks, she explained with the confidence of someone delivering an important life lesson. Some people just aren't natural leaders. The family sat in uncomfortable silence, no one quite knowing how to respond. I could see disappointment in my father's eyes, not directed at me, but at the situation and possibly at Celia's behavior on his birthday. But Celia wasn't finished. She raised her glass in an impromptu toast to Dad on his birthday. She began, appropriately enough, before taking a sharp turn into pursuing excellence and refusing to settle for mediocrity. Some of us understand that reaching for the stars means being willing to shine brightly. She looked directly at me, for her conclusion, her voice taking on an edge of finality that silenced the room completely. My sister's Tari, a nobody. Celia stated flatly, the words hanging in the air like a slapwell. I just got promoted at Marcorp. The executive team practically knows me by name. The table fell into stunned silence. Even Celia seemed momentarily surprised by her own bluntness. Our mother's face had drained of color, and our father set down his fork with a deliberate clink against his plate. In that moment, I made my decision. The board's confidentiality agreement was important, but so was my dignity, and more importantly, The truth. Congratulations on your promotion, Celia, I said calmly, setting down my wine glass. That's a significant achievement. She smiled triumphantly, interpreting my words as concession. But there's something you should know. I continued reaching for my purse and extracting a business card. My new business card, which had been delivered to my office that morning. I slid it across the table toward her. I'm the new co there. Celia stared at the card, her expression transitioning from confusion to disbelief to horror. In the span of seconds, she picked it up with trembling fingers, reading aloud. Samantha Mitchell, Chief Executive Officer, MA Corporation. The silence around the table was absolute. My mother's hand covered her mouth in shock. My father straightened in his chair, his eyes widening as he processed this information. That's impossible, Celia finally managed. You're making this up to embarrass me. The public announcement goes out in 3 weeks. After the current CEO's retirement party, I explained calmly that the board voted unanimously last month. I signed their contract on Thursday, but you've never mentioned. How could you possibly? Celia sputtered, her carefully constructed narrative crumbling around her. I've been with Ma for 9 years, I said. I started at a company that was acquired by Lincoln Financial, which was later acquired by Ma. I've been COO for the past 2 years, my mother repeated clearly, trying to understand the acronym. Chief Operating Officer. My father explained, his voice filled with dawning comprehension. That's the second highest position in a company, and now CEO Chief Executive Officer. The highest position, Uncle Robert added, proving he hadn't been as oblivious to the conversation as I'd assumed. Celia's face had flushed crimson. Why wouldn't you tell us something like that unless you're lying now to one-up me, rather than argue? I unlocked my phone, opened my email, and passed it to my father. This is the formal offer letter from the board. Chairman, I'm sorry for not sharing this sooner, but we agreed to keep it confidential until the public announcement. My father read the email, his expression transforming from skepticism to amazement to overwhelming pride. Samantha, I don't even have words. You're going to be the CEO of MA Corporation, my mother asked. Finally finding her voice, the entire company is sale, nodded effective next month, but that means Celia began. Then stopped as though full implications hit her. That means you're your boss, I supplied technically. I'm your boss's 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 boss. But don't worry, I maintain strict separation between family matters and business decisions. Celia stood abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. I need some air, she announced, and rushed from the dining room towards the back porch. Bradley looked around awkwardly before following her, leaving the rest of the family in stunned silence. After a moment, my father began to laugh, a deep, genuine laugh that broke the tension in the room. All these years, he said, shaking his head in wonder. All these years, and we had no idea. Why didn't you tell us, Samantha? My mother asked. He hurt, evident. In her voice, I looked at her directly. Would you have believed me if I had the question hung in the air? Uncomfortable but honest. Before anyone could respond, we heard the back door slam as Celia re-entered the house. Rather than returning to the dining room, she headed upstairs, followed by the sound of a bedroom door closing firmly. My father sighed, looking torn between following her and staying to learn more about my news. I made the decision for him. I should go talk to her, I said, standing up. This is a lot to process. As I headed upstairs to my childhood bedroom. Now a guest room, but still the space Celia always claimed during family visits. I steeled myself for the confrontation to come. The initial shock had passed. Now we would see if any healing was possible. I knocked softly on the bedroom door. Celia, can I come in? Silence greeted me. Then a muffled, it's unlocked. I opened the door to find my sister sitting on the edge of the bed, her perfect makeup now streaked with tears, her designer dress rumpled as she hunched forward. Bradley sat awkwardly, the corner chair, looking relieved to see me. I'll give you two some privacy, he said quickly, standing and exiting the room for a long moment. Celia and I simply looked at each other. The last time we had been alone in this room together, we had been teenagers, Celia preparing for a high school dance. Well, I studied for SATs, is it really true? She finally asked, her voice smaller than I'd heard it in years. Yes. I confirmed I was going to wait until the public announcement before telling the family. She laughed bitterly, always so by the book following. all the rules corporate governance matters when you're leading. An organization of 11 zeros and people, I replied evenly. 11 Zendon, she repeated, shaking her head in disbelief. How did this happen, Sam? How did you become CEO without any of us knowing? I sat down on the opposite end of the bed. I never stopped sharing because there was nothing to share. Celia, I stopped sharing because no one seemed interested. That's not fair, she protested weakly. Isn't it, every time I mentioned a promotion or a new responsibility? The subject changed back to your life in New York. She was quiet for a moment. I didn't know what you were doing was important. The raw honesty of her statement struck me. She genuinely hadn't understood. Not because she was malicious, but because her framework for success was so different. From mine, I'm going to lose my job, aren't I? She asked, suddenly fresh, panic in her voice. You're going to fire me for what I said downstairs. No, I assured her I meant what I said, about separating family and business. Your job performance at MA will be evaluated by your direct supervisors, just like anyone else's. But you could fire me if you wanted to. I could fire anyone at the company if I wanted to. Acknowledged, but that's not how I lead. I make decisions based on performance, and business needs, not personal feelings. She studied my face, perhaps searching for signs of deception or revenge. How did you do it? She finally asked. How did you become CEO without playing the game, without networking and promoting yourself and making sure everyone knew your value? The question revealed so much about the difference in our approaches and our outcomes. I did play the game. Celia, just not the same game you've been playing, I explained. I focused on delivering results rather than talking about them. I built genuine relationships based on competence and trust rather than social currency. I developed expertise that made me indispensable, but nobody knew who you were, she protested. The people who mattered knew, I corrected. Her, the board knew, the executive team knew, the clients knew. That was enough. We sat in silence for a while, each processing the seismic shift in our understood reality. Everyone downstairs must think I'm pathetic now, Celia finally said, fresh tears threatening. No, I said gently. They think you're human and maybe a little embarrassed, which is also human. She looked up at me. Vulnerability, replacing the practiced confidence she typically projected. Dude, you hate me, Sam, for all the things I've said over the years. The question caught me off guard. No, I don't hate you. Sometimes you've hurt me, but I've always understood that you were just being you. What's that supposed to mean? A flash of her usual defensiveness returned. It means you value different things than I. Do you want recognition and admiration? I want impact and results. Neither approach is inherently wrong. They're just different paths. Celia wiped her eyes, careful, even in emotional distress, not to smudge her mascara further. So what happens now? Do we just go back downstairs and pretend everything's normal? We go back downstairs and celebrate Dad's birthday, I said firmly. Tonight isn't about either of our careers. It's about him. She nodded slowly, then asked the question that clearly troubled her most. At work, will everyone know that the CEO is my sister? I understood her concern immediately. Whatever legitimate achievements she had earned would be questioned if people knew about our relationship. The company has 73,000 employees worldwide. Celia, most people will never make the connection, and I certainly won't be announcing it. Relief washed over her face. Thank you for that. But I added, you might want to scale back some of your claims about knowing senior leadership personally. That kind of thing has a way of getting back to people. She actually laughed, a genuine laugh without the performative quality her expressions usually carried. God. I've been such an idiot. Not an idiot, I corrected. Just someone playing a different game than the one that actually mattered. Stood up, smoothing my dress, ready to go back down. Celia nodded, then surprised me by asking, do you have any advice for my actual job? I mean, now that we're being honest with each other, the question was so unexpected and so genuine that I paused to give it serious consideration. Focus on delivering real value, not just the appearance of value, I said. Finally, find problems you can solve before anyone asks you to solve them. Make your boss's job easier, give credit generously, and take responsibility when things go wrong. Build others up instead of competing with them. That sounds exhausting, she admitted. I smiled. Sometimes it is, but it's also sustainable in a way that constant self-promotion isn't. And the results last longer. As we headed back downstairs together, I realized something had fundamentally shifted between us. The competitive dynamic that had defined our relationship since childhood had been disrupted beyond repair. What would replace it remained to be seen. But for the first time in decades, I felt hope that we might find a healthier balance when we re-entered the dining room. The family fell silent, all eyes on us with nervous anticipation. My father's concern was evident in his furrowed brow. Celia cleared her throat. I believe I owe everyone an apology for my behavior earlier, especially you, Dad. I'm sorry for disrupting your birthday dinner. The tension in the room visibly dissipated. My father smiled warmly. There's nothing to apologize for, sweetheart. And Sam, she continued, turning to me with visible effort. Congratulations on your achievement. It's impressive that the understatement made several family members hide smiles, but the sentiment was genuine. Perhaps the first genuine acknowledgement of my professional accomplishment. Celia had ever offered thank you. I replied simply, and congratulations on your promotion too. Regional manager is a significant step. As we retook our seats and my mother brought out the birthday cake, I caught my father's eye across the table. He gave me a subtle nod of pride that meant more than any public accolade ever could. 1 month later, the official announcement of my appointment as MA Corporation's new CEO made headlines in the business press. The Wall Street Journal ran a profile highlighting my unusual career path and stealth rise through the ranks. Several industry publications noted the significance of a 34-year-old woman taking the helm of one of the nation's largest financial services firms. My inbox flooded with congratulatory messages from colleagues, clients, and even competitors. The board chairman called to say the market had responded positively to the announcement, with modest stock price climbing 4% in the first day of trading. After the news broke, among the hundreds of messages was a brief email from Celia. Saw the announcement, proud of you, mean it. Those 6 words represented more genuine support than I'd received from my sister in our entire adult lives. The formal introduction to the company took place at a town hall meeting live-streamed to all MA offices worldwide. As I stood on stage outlining my vision for the company's future, I spotted Celia in the video feed from the New York office, sitting attentively in the back row, actually taking notes, rather than positioning herself prominently for visibility. After the town hall, my executive assistant handed me a report from HR flagging unusual behavior from an employee. Regional marketing manager Celia Mitchell, New York office, has declined 3 interview requests from internal communications regarding her family connection to new requesting guidance. I smiled as I wrote my response. No, action needed. Respect her privacy and professionalism. 2 weeks after the announcement, my parents called to share that they had finally displayed my college diploma in the living room beside Celia's Cornell degree that had hung there alone for over a decade. We should have done this years ago, my mother admitted. I think we never fully understood what you were building. It's never too late to change how we see things. I told her, meaning it sincerely. The most significant shift came during the next family gathering, a casual summer barbecue at my aunt's house. For the first time, family members asked me specific questions about my work, listening attentively to my answers, rather than waiting for their turn to speak. My cousin's husband, who worked in banking, engaged me in a thoughtful conversation about regulatory challenges in the industry, and Celia, most surprisingly of all, did not dominate the conversation with stories of her own career. When asked about her job, she responded with measured accuracy rather than exaggeration. I'm managing regional marketing for the Northeast. It's challenging but rewarding. Later, as we helped clean up after dinner, Celia joined me on the porch, 2 glasses of wine in hand. She offered one to me and took a seat on the step below. Can I ask you something? She said, looking out at the twilight rather than at me. Something I've been wondering since Dad's birthday. Of course, I replied, curious about her unusually reflective mood. Were you ever jealous of me? The question came quietly, without her usual confidence. I considered this carefully before answering. Sometimes when we were younger, not of your achievements, but of how easily you received recognition and attention. She nodded, seeming to have expected this answer. I was always jealous of you, she admitted, of your certainty, your solidity. You always seemed to know exactly who you were and what you wanted. This confession stunned me. I never knew that because I never showed it, she said with a small laugh. I was too busy trying to prove I was better than you, and I was too busy trying to prove I didn't care what anyone thought I acknowledged. We're quite a pair of sisters, aren't we? Celia mused. We are, I agreed, but maybe not a bad pair, just a complicated one. We sat in companionable silence watching the fireflies begin to appear in my aunt's garden. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, Celia finally continued, about delivering real value instead of just the appearance of value. I've been trying it at work, focusing on results instead of recognition. How's that going? I asked, genuinely curious. It's different, harder in some ways, but also better. She seemed surprised by her own assessment. My team seems to trust me more when I'm not constantly trying to take credit for everything. I smiled. That tends to happen. I'm not going to turn into you overnight, she warned, a hint of her old spirit returning. I still like being the center of attention sometimes. I wouldn't expect otherwise, I assured her, and that's not a bad thing. Your social skills and visibility have value, too. We just need to balance them with substance. Celia raised her glass in a small toast to substance. Then something I'm learning about late in life. I clinked my glass against hers. It's never too late to change how we define success. As we finished our wine in comfortable silence, I reflected on how differently this family gathering had unfolded compared to all those that came before. For years, I had protected my achievements from family scrutiny, believing that privacy was the only way to preserve their value in doing so. I had denied my family the opportunity to truly know me, and perhaps denied myself the support and recognition I secretly craved. Celia, meanwhile, had spent years crafting an image of success without building its foundation, seeking validation that constantly slipped through her fingers because it wasn't anchored in reality. Both approaches had left us unfulfilled in different ways. Both had prevented the genuine connection that was only now beginning to form between us as adults. The path forward wouldn't be without challenges. Decades of established patterns don't disappear overnight, but for the first time I felt hopeful that Celia and I might find a new way of relating to each other, one based on mutual respect rather than competition, on genuine understanding rather than assumptions. True. Success, I was learning, wasn't just about achievement or recognition. It was about building a life that aligned with your values, surrounded by relationships that reflected mutual understanding and acceptance. Sometimes the greatest achievement isn't a title or a salary or public accolades. It's the quiet victory of being truly seen and respected for who you are, especially by those who have known you longest. If you've ever been underestimated by family members or struggled to be recognized for your true worth, I hope the story resonates with you. Have you experienced similar dynamics in your own family? How did you handle them? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if it spoke to you, subscribe for more real-life experiences, and share with someone who might need to hear this message today. Remember that sometimes the best validation comes not from proving others wrong, but from staying true to your own path, even when no one else sees its value yet. Thank you for listening to my Thai story.